Welcome everybody to the Red Stars post-match press conference. We have Tierna Davidson and Yuki Nagasato with us. We do also have Jeff Cassidy in the room, so we are going to start with Jeff's questions, and then we'll move over to the Zoom questions. So, Jeff, if you want to kick us off.
Tough result, obviously. First game of the season. Just how did you feel like it went? As a first games of the season are kind of adapting period, I guess. Is that kind of how it felt?
Yeah, I mean, I think with the first game of the season, it's a lot about getting nerves out, kind of really seeing how we can play with, pressure of it being a season opener and, plenty of fans and a great atmosphere and just kind of getting our legs underneath us. And so I think that's what we saw today. We saw some really good moments for our team, but we also saw some things we need to work on. And so I think that's generally what you get from your first game of the season.
And you had in the role you were in, I mean, you've played in various roles on the team in both, times you've been on it, just kind of a little bit deeper today, would you say? I mean, how was that? How are you feeling in that role?
I kind of feel like more of flesh too much better to play because I didn't used to get played at 6, but the new role makes me much better to play, and then brings more energy from the back to the front. So that part makes me like more feeling to play more fun.
Playing from a deeper position.
Yeah.
Nice. And how are you feeling?
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, I think, plenty of nerves for me as well. Being first game of the season, but also being first game in a year. So yeah, it was nice to be back out on the field with my teammates.
Nice.
Claire, go ahead.
Hey guys, sorry for camera off. It's quite late here. Wanted to ask Tierna, maybe you first. You lose Casey in the first 15 minutes of this game. What were the adjustments that were made, or even actually for both of you, for you, Yuki, as well? You had to make midfield adjustments. What happens when you lose a player like that 15 minutes into the match? Yeah,
it's definitely tough. We definitely wanted to see her play a lot of minutes for us today, just because A, she's a great player, and B, she hasn't played in a while, so we were excited for that. But with losing any player on the field, you just have to make the adjustments. You have to move players where they fit in. So we moved Aaron, and we swapped Tatum over there just to fill the positions as best we could. And that's just kind of how it goes with any position that you lose on the field.
And then for you, Yuki, specifically, what do you see when you move further back? Is it the ability to kind of see the players in front of you and connect with them more? Is it more about defensive capabilities? What is it that changes? What's the switch that flips for you when you move from further forward?
So mentally, I need to switch more defensive side because I always want to jump on their opposite opponent to make mistake or something like that, to apply the pressure. But I need to focus on more defensive connect with defense line, and need to keep balance or shielding, like a more I needed to see big picture than small picture.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And then for both of you, it was a tough result. It was an unfortunate thing at the end that swayed the final points. But did this feel like an encouraging first step for what is essentially a brand new group? This was a very competitive game back and forth with a team that finished top 4 last season.
Yeah, I think we were excited with some of the moments that we saw. I think it was also really good to get some big minutes for some of our rookies, like Penelope and Jenna, who's new to our team, to get them out into our shape, into our formation, and really get into the system. I think it's only just the beginning, and it's really encouraging for us.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Claire. Any other questions in the Zoom for Tierna or Yuki?
No.
Came
Jeff,
to watch.
Questions?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Quickly follow up and just, Claire mentioned kind of the new, some newer players. You get a bunch of players returning, and unfortunately, Casey, just does it feel like you're starting over a little bit? Does it feel like you're, where do you feel like you're at in sort of a multi-year process? Is it kind of a continuation of last year? Does it feel a little new this year?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it feels newer than previous years, because I think we had an abnormally low turnover on our roster for a number of years. And so I think,
Mhm.
you know, this year we had a lot of new players, but I think we continue to try and stay true to the character of the team, kind of the hardworking, blue collar, humble mentality. I think that's really what we're about, and just making sure that the players that come in understand that and can kind of hold themselves to that standard is really what we're about. And I think all the other pieces fall in place after that.
Nice.
Good
Yeah.
answer.
If there are no other questions in the Zoom, I'll let Tierna and Yuki go, and we'll bring in Coach.
I will bring Chris.
Yeah.
Just a moment.
Great. We have Coach Petrucelli here with us, to let Jeff gather some notes. Let's go with Claire first. Claire, go ahead.
Hey, Chris, thank you so much for your time. Gosh, I have so many questions. First one is just now that we've seen the team play a game, I guess my first question is what is the philosophy behind sticking with the 3-back with the players that you had available and going with that 3-4-3 today?
Well, first of all, I think, you know, if we can put Casey, Tierna, and Tatum in playing together, I just think they're really hard to beat. You know, I think that's probably the real strength of our team. So I didn't feel like sort of spreading them out across the field was the best move, especially against a San Diego team that, you know, was going to be pretty direct and you know, a lot of balls flicked, and you know, I was concerned about gaps and things like that. So that was really the thought there. But also it just, look, it fits our team. Like we can press with you know, the 3 up front, and we can clog the midfield when we need to. And again, those 3 in the back are really good.
And then the second half really felt like it was played to this stalemate. What was the decision making behind? I know, you know, Tierna has not played serious minutes in a long time. You have to pull her. I think it was like the 82nd minute. What went behind the thought process there of we need to preserve this rather than see this game out?
Well, in fairness, Tierna didn't train all week. She's got a little bit of an upper leg injury, and she was questionable coming into the match. She had to sort of pass a fitness test yesterday. And the thought was basically she was going to play until she told us, you know, that it was time to come off. And I knew it was going to happen at some point. I actually expected it a lot earlier. I thought she'd be off at about 60 minutes. So I was surprised she made it that long, but you know, you could see losing Casey was a big blow. Then having to take Tierna off, and it was the right move to take her off. Tactically, it wasn't the right move, but for her health, it was the right move. And you could see, like, we were a little unsettled once she came off there at the end.
Is there any update on Casey on what drove that substitution?
Yeah, she got in the head. I think she's doing pretty well though.
Okay. I'm going to ask a couple more if that's okay. I hope there's room for Dan. I can also take time, but asking about actually Yuki specifically. Yuki started a little bit further forward. She comes back later. It seems like she's filling in. We have seen players for the Red Stars take on these utility roles of the ability to make changes in the middle of the game. Can you talk a little bit about what Yuki did for the team tonight?
Well, I think what's happened with Yuki is, sort of in the middle of preseason, she came to me and she said, "I'll play 6." I think she saw that, we were a little thin there. And obviously we lost some players who played there. So, she volunteered to drop a little bit deeper, and her dropping deeper also opened up a spot for Penelope, who I thought was good tonight and has been good, all the way through. So I think it made a lot of sense to drop her deeper.
And then last one, this is not the result that maybe even the team earned over 2 halves, but does it feel like a good start to the season to go into a hostile environment, 30,000 fans? This is a team that finished top 4 last season. You guys have had a lot of turnover and you came that close to getting a result tonight.
You know, Claire, it's a hard thing, honestly. Like, I'm proud of them. They play their butts off, as you mentioned, in a tough environment against a good team. But in the end, you know, we walk home with no points, and that's disappointing, you know, either way. But if we look at how we played, I'm happy with how we played. Just not real happy with the result.
Of course. Thanks so much, Chris. Safe travels back.
Thank you.
Thanks, Claire. Dan, you want to go ahead?
Thanks, Chris. Building on that last question, when it was 2-2 there with a minute or so to go, were you thinking that was a fair result, or that you deserve more out of the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think 2-2 was fair. Honestly, we had chances, you know, really to get a third. We probably had the better of the chances in the match. I haven't seen any stats or anything like that, but you know, we certainly had the ball more, no doubt, but that may be more by design than anything else. So yeah, I mean, I think we deserve a little more out of it.
Any thoughts on the goal they scored when Alyssa kind of made the save and then popped it up in the air?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a tough one. Like, you know, she was in between a little bit of, you know, do I knock it up and do I catch it? And then a little bit unlucky, right? I mean, she knocks it up in the air, it goes off the post, it bounces around, and Jaden scores, and I think Jaden has made a habit of scoring against us. She's paying me back from our connections back to Dallas, I think.
And then just kind of an intense opener, I would say. How would you say the start of the season is different coming into a game that counts toward the regular season as opposed to a year ago, when I know you were kind of late into preseason last year, but you started with the Challenge Cup, which was important, but maybe not quite as important as a regular season?
Very different, very different. I mean, you know, in the Challenge Cup last year, you were playing your way into shape. You were, you know, we weren't pushing people 90 minutes, things like that, you know, and here, you know, the points matter. Every point matters, as we, you know, as we saw last year at the end of the year, it was so close. So, you know, you gotta be ready to go right from the start. And, you know, we started with a tough assignment, you know, playing a good team, playing in a difficult environment. I don't know that a lot of teams are going to get points when they come here during the year.
And then last one, you mentioned the environment twice now, and you were here or there, wherever, for the playoffs last year. Does it seem like the excitement in that city and in that stadium has carried over?
Yeah, I mean, just wonderful. You know, I was thinking before the game, like back to my beginnings in women's soccer in the U.S., which are, you know, in the late 80s. And, you know, we have 30,000 people here. We'd be lucky to have 30 people, you know, in many of the games that we played. So, you know, San Diego's done a wonderful job. I mean, stadium's fantastic. The crowd is fantastic. The team is good, you know, and it feels like they've got momentum.
Great. Appreciate it, Chris. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Jeff?
You mentioned you were talking about the 3-back and thinking about how they usually, last year certainly went direct.
Yeah.
They started Korniak on the bench. I don't know if there was
Yeah.
something up there, but it seemed, you know, she comes in, she's
Yeah.
an imposing presence in that second half. Were you surprised sort of how they lined up? They looked a little more fluid today. Shaw was kind of central a bit.
Yeah. Well, first of all, yeah, you expected Korniak, right? Yeah. I mean, you expect Korniak, and I think when Korniak's in the game, you're almost like stupid to not play to her strengths, because that it's just what she does is so special, right? In our game, right? Like no one can deal with it, right? But without her, I think it forced them to have to play a little bit more. It seemed like though their service, there still was a lot of service, but it was like service that was wider and, you know, straight down the flank, as opposed to in towards the center for Korniak to flick on. So I do think that they were a little bit more fluid. Yeah.
And just the Yuki anecdote you shared about her coming to you.
Yeah.
She's one of the, you know, I guess she had 2 stints on this team.
Yeah.
She was around for some of the previous years. you think, I mean, I don't know, is that a presence that you need in a transition kind of period?
Yeah, with a lot of young players, you need some people that have experience and I think again, have the confidence, and to be unselfish, to say, look, I'll do whatever the team needs. And she recognizes, sort of what the team needs. So look, I think Yuki is one, a fantastic human being and a really, really talented player. I can't imagine our team not having Yuki, because she's such an important piece.
And you probably have to just figure out if that is ideal for the team though, to have her that.
Correct.
So effective as like that off 9 too.
Yeah, and and we even played her as the 9 last year at the end of the year, and I mean she can play almost anywhere, and at her, she's an older player, and she gets up and down the field and she continues to run. I thought she got a little bit tired at the end. I didn't take her off because actually I took her off last year at some point, and she got mad at me when I took her off. So I learned my lesson.
Thank you.
Awesome. If there are no other questions in the Zoom, I would like Coach get back.
Dan might have his.
Oh, Dan, did you still have a question or?
No,
Okay, no, you're good. All right. Thank you, everybody. And I'll send out a recording shortly.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Jeff.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt.